yesterday I misspoke a little bit because we get to the geopoliticals actually in Revelation 17, and then 18 shows what God does with that geopolitical. So we're going chronological here, where God is one thing after another to John. John showing one thing after another. And then he stops after 16 to back up a little bit and give you an idea of the woman and the beast and all of this. Then what he does for the woman and the beast. And then we go, after that, we'll go into 19 through 22, which is judgment and the setting up of new heaven and new earth. So it's very good. So we had, all of these things going up in 8, 9, and 10 about the seals. And we finished with the seals, and then John eats the small book, which he wasn't, that it was sealed up. You had the two witnesses in 11 that came down to witness, and they called this spiritual Sodom and Egypt. So this wasn't Sodom and Egypt. It was actually Israel. But he says this very cryptically. You don't find the word Israel in here, but it's speaking of cryptically of Sodom and Egypt, which was where the Lord was crucified. It's kind of like when John would say, the one in whom the Lord loved. Here he's giving this criticism of this is Israel. And this is actually where the Lord was crucified. This is Jerusalem. And he talks about that. We have the seventh trumpet sounding, and the seventh trumpet will be Christ himself coming down. The last trump. When it says the last trump shall sound, that will be the last trump. Now, where's the rapture in all of this? There are so many people with the different rapture theories. I don't know where exactly it fits. I can have several places that it could fit and probably should fit. I think it happens before we get to these, what I'm calling these post-church, premillennial believers, who many of them are martyrs. It talks about later on those that the Lord holds them and says, well, we're going to wait till all the rest of those that are killed are coming in. So it's like, wow, that's crazy. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven. So now we were looking at all the trumpets, and he was up in there. Now, wonder in heaven. Now we're going to get into some allegories. One thing that means another. Up until now, I'm going to go with locust meant locust. They weren't helicopters, When he's describing these spiritual things, he's describing them. The angels did have wings. They did have eyes. One had the face of a man. The other one had the face of a lion. We have to realize when it's using plain text language, but now, a great wonder in heaven, we're dealing with figurativism. A woman clothed with the sun and the moon and the stars, upon her was crowned with 7 crowns. And so when it starts telling you what the crown means, see, that's the different thing. When you have something that's black and white, it doesn't say, well, the eyes meant this and this meant that. The word means does not come into play. That's how we know we're shifting gears a little bit here. When later on it says this means this and this means this. And so he saw, and she was with child and travailed. So this woman here was a woman clothed with the sun and moon. She has with child and travailed. And another wonder in heaven, behold, a great dragon with 7 heads and horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew 1/3 of the stars of the heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the woman was ready to deliver, the woman which was ready to deliver for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So that's what the dragon is over the woman waiting to devour the child. And she brought forth a man-child, and we believe that is Jesus. And he was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was brought up into God and to his throne. There you go, see? This one thing means something else. You don't see that before here, so you have to be very careful how you read this. And the woman fled into the wilderness, and there was a place prepared for her, and they would feed her 1,203 days. This is 3.5 years. So this woman, the true woman, the believing part of Israel, will go out. And even Jesus said to this, when you see the abomination of desolation, run. Don't go back into your house. Don't go back in. Woe unto you that have children, that give suck. Pray that it not be on the Sabbath. You leave, and the secular Israel will be the one that gets judged, while the spiritual Israel will come down and will be protected. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against them, and prevailed not. neither was their place anymore. So the devil is cast down to the earth. So that's what this is saying. And so we're going to have all this craziness going on. Again, the opening up of these places where the demons come out and they look like locusts, and these others come out and they have the serpents. They have the face like lions, and they have like serpents like tail. They could shoot fire. You know, all these things happening. The supernaturalism happening at the same time. And he comes down to deceive the whole world, and he was cast out of the earth into the earth, and his angels were cast with him. So that now the demons and them are on earth. This becomes a very crazy time. And there's a loud voice saying, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of Christ, for the accuser of the brethren is cast down. He's not up there accusing us anymore. Now I think also this is when the church is not there. One of the places where you could intercept that, because the accuser of the brethren isn't there. So the church is gone, you can't accuse. That's one of the places. Like I said, I don't know for sure where the rapture comes in. There's several places where it could. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. And rejoice, ye heavens that dwell in air. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down unto you. And when the dragon saw that he was cast down to earth, he persecuted the woman, which is Israel, which is believing Israel, the Messianic Israel, and that which brought forth the man-child. It's believing Israel. It was a time of believing when the man-child came, but and there was always believing Messianics, by the way. There always have been. Even though the structure of Judaism would not accept Jesus, there were always Messianics. In fact, the church was mostly Jewish for the first 100 years, so we have to realize that. We tend to think that it's only Gentiles, it's a Gentiles-only club. Not true. So the serpent cast out a flood after the woman. That flood is going to be humanity. He's riling humanity up to go against the woman. And the earth helped the woman and opened up her mouth and swallowed up the flood from the dragon. And dragon went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. These are believing Messianics. And there could be Gentiles in there too. That's why I think that this is not the church. I think this is this group of premillennial post-church believers. So after there's a war in heaven, and after he's cast down, the Lord takes his bride up. That could be, I'm going to leave that one as the most likely, but there's several places. And we're talking about these beasts here, and this is to let us know in 13 about this governmental system that happens. And it's very cryptic. It's very kind of hard to understand. That's why I said that you could take 12 and tie it to Daniel and go there on. So it's actually like we're reading, Daniel 14 instead of Revelation 13. You could just put these two. Well, actually, you could put the next 4 on there too, up through 18. In fact, just go ahead and go into the rest, But, and I stood on the sand of the sea, and a beast rose out of the sea, which the sea represents humanity, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. So this is basically, and they all said blasphemy. I am God. I am, you don't need, this whole kind of thing. This is blasphemy is saying that Christ was not God. Blasphemy is saying that the Bible lies. Whatever blasphemous things can be said is being said by the system. And the beast was I saw was like a leopard, and it had feet like a bear, and a mouth like a lion. And the dragon gave it power. So the dragon gave this thing power and his seat. So you can sit in my seat. You can do what I'll give you power to do. Now, it's like a leopard because it's quick. It's like the feet of the bear because it's powerful. And it's got the mouth of a lion because it's deadly and strong and fearsome. So that's what those things mean. You got something that's quick, powerful, and fearsome. And I saw one of the heads was wounded to death, and the death was healed. So one of those heads was wounded. It's kind of like a zombie-ish head, but it's healing. And they worship the dragon that gave power to the beast. This is what the people will do. They're going to worship the dragon that gives power to the beast. And who is like unto the beast? Oh, they get enamored with him. And there was given to him a mouth to speak great blasphemies, and he does, to draw out the sinners. And he opens his mouth and blasphemes against God, and blasphemes his name and his tabernacle and those that dwell in heaven. He's just going against everything about God. And it was given him power to make war with the saints. Now, he can have war with the saints. That's what I'm saying. This is not what we call the bride of Christ. He's making war with the saints. Remember the word saints here. It goes back to anybody from Adam to those believers. Anybody's a saint. And you had Judaistic saints that believed in God through Jehovah and Yeshua. Then you had, when Christ came, you have Jewish saints who believed in Jesus, who is Yeshua. And then Gentiles are allowed to come in. Gentiles could come in too. They just had to proselytize through Jerusalem. Now that's taken out of the way, but there are still Jewish saints here, and now they are becoming, and with some Gentiles with them, they are becoming these ones that get warred against. So that's happening. And so you have three different dispensations. I'm trying to keep away from the word bride. We like to say we're the bride of Christ, bride of Christ. I think all these saints are going to be considered the bride of Christ. It's just there's different dispensationalisms where the saints in one area could stand and fight. They took Jericho. David fought against Goliath. On we go. And then we had the church, which was showing the heart of God and the love of God. And now we got the millennials, these premillennials, who will show the death of God, the power of the blood through their own suffering. Not for salvation, but this is the rules. Anyway, that's how I'm understanding it. And so here we have this, and he has war against the saints, and those that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Now, I grew up with the Lamb's Book of Life, telling me about that. There is a book where God has foreknown, this is not Calvinism, who had the heart to choose him. And in this, he isn't making it known. It's like if I went back in time yesterday and watched you make all the decisions you're making, and then wrote down, if I watched you, and I wrote it down, then I could go back and show you everything you're going to choose to do. Because God looks at the reins of your heart and knows which way you're going to go. But it's your choice to choose the reins. It's very deep for us to say that. My name is written from the foundation of the world. But that's how this is beginning. And we also say that there's a colorful-ism here, is that in Christ we have this new name, and it's his name that was written. And that's our name. But these are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. When I was a boy, thought that was interesting. But a lot of people disagree on what that means, and they'll try to lean it into some kind of predestination. Please stay away from that, because that's not what it's saying. He knows the reins of your heart. And we see reins of the heart mentioned all through here too. So, but he says, if any man has an ear to hear, let him hear. If you have ears to hear what he's saying here, hear it. Don't just go, oh, well, I don't get this. He says a lot of times in here, this is wisdom, and it takes us, we have to stop and think. But he says those that he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that is killed by the sword shall be killed by the sword. This is the patience and the faithfulness of the saints. For God's purpose to go through, there are some who will go into captivity, and there are some who will die by the sword. This is not predestination so much as he's leaving them as a witness. Their witness of captivity and the sword is a witness for Christ. It's not just a verbal evangelicalism. This will be now a physical evangelicalism. And another beast which I saw was like the first. It came up out of the earth and had two horns like a lamb. He spoke as the dragon. So we have another beast coming up. And he exercised the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth to worship and shall worship the first beast. So the second beast is pointing to the first. And he does great wonders, and fire comes down from heaven in the sight of men. He deceives them that dwell on the earth by means of the miracles that he does. And he has power to give unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast shall both speak and cause as many that would not worship the beast to be killed. Pretty simple. He's got this AI image that if you don't agree, if you don't obey, you're dead. Pretty much that's it simple. And this is where we get to the mark of the beast. That's why it's called the mark of the beast. this whole system that we're doing now is free. It's really not. When it's forced upon you, you will either do this or die. And there is a spiritual allegiance involved here. This isn't just a financial allegiance. This is a spiritual allegiance. People will know that by taking this mark, and later on we talk about that, about those who will be tormented because they took the mark. But you're not taking the mark because you eat. You're taking the mark because you also want that system. That's what it really represents. It isn't just I can't eat, which you can't. You can't trade or eat. But it also means that, and it's a global governance. I mean, who knew we could do global governance till now? He will cause great and small, rich and poor, bond to receive the mark on the forehead, that no man may be able to buy or sell, save he has the mark of the number. And here's the he that has wisdom. This means put on your thinking caps right here. Let him understand and count the number of the beast, for the number of he is the number of man, the number of 666. Now I don't know what that is. This one is, I don't know. People have said it was this person or that person. It's the Pope. It's whatever. We're still wondering about this one. Maybe when we get closer, maybe before the rapture, we will go, that makes sense. A lot of things at the time of Jesus made sense when they happened, but they didn't understand it before it happened. If you said, what does it mean here that he will be purchased by 30 pieces of silver? What does it mean when his bones will not be broken? I don't understand. Then when the cross happens, you're like, that makes sense. So we have this here. And so 12 and 13 do this. Then 14 will go into, continues this story. And behold, I saw a lamb that stood at Mount Zion, and 144,000. He's getting his army ready. So in the next video, we're going to go into how the army is going to respond to now in 12 and 13. We've seen the geopolitical setup of Satan because he was cast out. Now he's setting up this gigantic geopolitical, but there's still one coming. So that's where we go, to be continued.